Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. This time we're going to be tackling Ripple and XRP.
Oh yeah, it's a hot topic.
It is. It is. We've been digging through a ton of sources just to really get a feel for it. You know, we've got news articles and financial analysis.
Even some crypto Twitter chatter.
Yeah, a little bit of that. Always entertaining.
Always fun.
But the mission here is to kind of cut through the noise and try to figure out what is really going on with XRP, because it's been on a wild ride lately.
Yeah, especially since November. I mean, that's when things really started to take off.
Yeah.
And everybody's wondering, is this the top? Is it going to keep going? What's happening?
All right. Well, and we've seen that XRP's value has skyrocketed, like you said. I mean, over 383% since November.
It hit $2.70 at one point.
Wow.
That's the second highest price it's ever reached.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like a nearly 400% gain in just a couple of months. That would definitely get my attention.
Oh, for sure.
But I'm curious, what's driving this? What's fueling this surge?
Well, a lot of people are pointing to Donald Trump's election win as a potential catalyst.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it seems to have injected a lot of confidence into certain markets.
Interesting.
But it's too early to say how this is going to play out in the long run. You know, we're not endorsing any political stance here, but
Of course.
But it's a factor.
It's a factor, yeah.
And then on top of that, you've got the launch of Ripple Labs' new stablecoin 4LUSD.
Okay, so a stablecoin. Now, for those who may not be familiar, remind us what a stablecoin is.
Yeah, so a stablecoin is designed to maintain a stable value. It's usually pegged to something like the US dollar. So in this case, 3LUSD is pegged to the US dollar.
So it's designed to stay stable.
Okay.
But what makes this stablecoin significant enough to impact XRP's price?
Well, think of it this way. It shows that Ripple Labs is serious about wider adoption of its technology.
Okay.
They're looking beyond just speculation. They're thinking about real-world use cases. And for investors, that's a really appealing sign. It kind of feeds into that narrative that crypto is moving beyond its niche and into the mainstream.
I see. So it's a signal of maybe more legitimacy to some.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we've got political events, we've got new product launches, and this kind of broader shift in how people are viewing crypto. Sounds like a lot is riding on how these factors all interact with each other.
Absolutely. And there's another piece of the puzzle we need to factor in.
Okay.
Upcoming FOMC meeting.
Ah, yes, the Federal Open Market Committee, the folks who set interest rates in the U.S. Now, I have to admit, I don't usually follow the Fed super closely.
Sure.
But I'm sensing this is a pretty big deal for crypto. Am I right?
You are. What the Fed decides has a ripple effect across all financial markets.
No pun intended.
Exactly. But when it comes to crypto, the impact can be even more pronounced.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of ripples, we just got the latest consumer price index data. Inflation ticked up by a modest 0.3%. Do you think that's enough to sway the Fed's decision on interest rates?
Well, this is definitely something they're going to be considering. Some analysts are predicting that the Fed might cut rates for the third time in a row, especially with this modest inflation data. And if that happens, it could signal that they're prioritizing economic growth, which could make riskier assets like crypto more appealing to investors.
Okay, so lower interest rates potentially combined with everything else we've talked about could really add fuel to this XRP fire. Okay, starting to make sense why everyone is watching this FOMC meeting so closely.
Exactly. And we've also seen XRP react very strongly to events like this. I mean, just look at last week. When that CPI report came out, XRP jumped 21% almost immediately.
Wow. So volatility is part of what makes XRP so attractive. Or risky, depending on your perspective.
Exactly. Some traders love that volatility. They see it as an opportunity to make quick profits. But for someone looking for a stable long-term investment, it can be a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, definitely. But this brings up a question for me. If XRP is supposedly taking off because of all this real-world use and adoption, shouldn't we be seeing more activity on the network itself?
You would think. And this is where things get a little interesting.
Yeah.
Despite this price rally, XRP's weekly active addresses have actually dropped significantly.
Really?
That's almost like a contradiction.
Yeah, I mean, if more people were using XRP, you'd think we'd see more active addresses, not fewer. What's going on here?
Well, it suggests that a lot of this recent price action might be driven by speculation rather than actual use of XRP for, its intended purpose, fast cross-border payments.
So people are essentially buying XRP based on its potential, not necessarily because they're using it right now.
Exactly.
And this is an important distinction.
It is.
Yeah.
And to make things even more complex, we're seeing different behavior among the XRP whales, those holding large amounts of XRP.
Okay.
Some are accumulating, some are selling.
So it's like trying to piece together a financial puzzle.
It is.
We've got this huge price surge, but the underlying activity doesn't necessarily match up. I'm starting to understand why there's so much debate about what's really driving XRP's momentum.
Yeah. And there's one more layer to this story that we need to explore. Ripple Labs itself. They're not just sitting back and watching this all unfold. They're making moves.
Right. They just got approval to launch their RLUSD stablecoin in the US, which we touched on earlier. But they're also generating a lot of buzz with this potential XRP ETF.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter about that. It originated from a pretty well-known crypto influencer, but nothing has been officially confirmed yet. But if it does happen, it would be huge.
Yeah.
An ETF or exchange-traded fund would make investing in XRP much more accessible to the average person.
Yeah.
They could just buy XRP through their brokerage account, alongside their Apple or Google stock.
That would be huge. Talk about bringing crypto to the masses.
Exactly. Imagine the influx of new investors. It could potentially propel XRP to a whole new level.
Wow. So we've got political wins, we've got a new stablecoin, a potential rate cut from the Fed, a possible ETF on the horizon. It sounds like we're about to get strapped into a financial roller coaster.
Yeah.
What's next on our list for today?
Let's dive into something called funding rates.
Okay.
It's a little bit technical, but it gives us some insight into how traders are positioning themselves in the XRP market.
All right, I'm ready to get technical. Lead the way.
So funding rates, it's basically the cost of holding a leveraged position in a cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Think of it as a premium you pay for borrowing money to trade.
Okay, got it. So how do these funding rates then tie into the whole XRP picture?
Well, when funding rates are high, it usually signals strong bullish sentiment.
Okay.
Traders are willing to pay a premium because they believe the price is going to go up and they want to magnify their potential gains.
Got it. So high funding rates, bulls are in control.
That's one way to interpret it. But here's where things get a little interesting. XRP's funding rates have actually cooled down recently after being pretty high for a while.
So does that mean the bulls are losing steam? Are we about to see like a shift in sentiment?
Not necessarily. Some analysts see this as a potential slingshot effect.
Oh, okay.
It's like pulling back an elastic band before you launch it forward. This cooling off period could actually set the stage for another surge in price.
Okay, interesting analogy. So we've got this potential energy building up, and then once it releases, whoosh, XRP could take off again. But, we've been talking a lot about price action and market sentiment. I want to talk about the technology behind XRP for a second. I mean, that's pretty important.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of XRP's key selling points is its speed.
Right.
Transactions are confirmed in just a few seconds.
Yeah, I was reading about that. And that makes it really appealing to, banks and institutions that need to move money around the world really quickly.
Exactly. And it's not just about speed. XRP also boasts really low transaction fees, which makes it very cost-effective for those large-scale payments.
So we got speed, we got low fees, and this whole narrative of bringing crypto into the mainstream. But from what I've gathered, XRP isn't trying to replace traditional finance. It's more about working with existing systems, right?
Right. And that's where the interledger protocol comes in. This is a key innovation that allows different blockchain networks to communicate with each other seamlessly.
So it's kind of like a universal translator for cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The interledger protocol has the potential to really break down the barriers between these different crypto ecosystems, enabling this seamless value transfer between them.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be a game changer, especially for those institutions that are looking to integrate crypto into their existing infrastructure. But there have also been some concerns about how centralized XRP is compared to other cryptocurrencies, haven't there?
Yeah, that's a common critique. Some people argue that Ripple Labs holds a little bit too much control over the XRP ledger, which, goes against that decentralized ethos that drew a lot of people to crypto in the first place.
Right. So there's this tension between the desire for mainstream adoption, which often involves working with those established players, and that decentralized ideal that initially drew so many people to crypto.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance to strike.
It is. And then you've got the whole regulatory question hanging over XRP's head. The SEC has been looking at Ripple and XRP for years, trying to figure out if it should be classified as a security or a currency.
Right. And that's a big deal because how it gets classified could have major implications for how it's regulated and traded.
Yeah, the outcome of that investigation could really make or break XRP. It sounds like there's a lot at stake here. I mean, on the one hand, we have this potentially groundbreaking technology, real-world use cases. major partnerships, a company actively pushing for adoption. But on the other hand, we've got these concerns about centralization, regulatory uncertainty, and that inherent volatility of the crypto market.
It's complex. It's constantly evolving. But what makes it so fascinating is it's not just about technology or finance. It's about people.
Right.
Their beliefs, how they interact with this new world, this new, sometimes confusing world.
And you're right. We've talked a lot about the technical aspects, the market dynamics, the regulations. But at the end of the day, it's people who are driving this. It's their hopes, their fears, their decisions that are going to shape the future of XRP.
Human psychology plays a huge role in financial markets.
Oh, yeah.
Emotions like fear and greed and FOMO, fear of missing out, can heavily influence investment decisions.
Yeah.
Sometimes even more so than logic or rational analysis.
And then you layer social media on top of that. I mean, we see influencers hyping up XRP, making bold predictions, creating this sense of urgency and excitement.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, you have the skeptics, warning about a bubble, predicting a crash, spreading fear and doubt. It's a constant tug of war between that optimism and pessimism. And it can be really hard to filter out the noise.
It really can. And I guess that's where critical thinking and independent research come in. It's so easy to get swept up in the hype or the doom and gloom. But ultimately, it's up to each individual to make informed decisions based on their own understanding and their own risk tolerance.
Well said. And while the crypto world can seem really complex, it's important to remember that it's still relatively early days.
Yeah.
The story of XRP and the entire crypto space is still being written as we speak. And we all have the opportunity to participate in that evolution.
That's a great point. It's easy to feel overwhelmed with all the information and the constant fluctuations, but you have to kind of step back and appreciate the bigger picture. We're witnessing a potential paradigm shift in finance, and that's pretty exciting.
It is. And whether you're an investor, developer, entrepreneur, or just a curious observer, there are ways to get involved and shape the future of this technology.
So what I'm hearing is it's not just about understanding XRP. It's about understanding the forces that are shaping this entire crypto landscape and how those forces are going to ripple out and impact the world beyond finance.
You got it. This is about more than just the price of a digital asset. It's about the potential for a new financial system, one that could be more inclusive, more transparent, more accessible than anything we've seen before.
That's a powerful thought. It really puts this whole XRP deep dive into a different perspective. But before we get too carried away talking about the future, let's just take a moment and reflect on what we've uncovered so far.
Okay.
We explored this market frenzy surrounding XRP. We delved into the technology, acknowledged those regulatory challenges, and we talked about the role of human psychology in all of this.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
We did. And while we can't predict the future with any certainty, we can try to equip ourselves with the knowledge, the awareness, a little healthy skepticism to help navigate this evolving landscape.
Absolutely.
Well, with all this talk about the future, I'm wondering, is there anything else from our research that you think is really crucial for our listeners to know about this XRP phenomenon?
One thing that really stood out to me was just the sheer diversity of opinions on XRP.
Oh,
I mean, you've got some analysts and influencers predicting it's going to hit astronomical prices,
right.
become like the go-to currency for global payments. Others are much more cautious.
Right.
Pointing to those regulatory hurdles, the potential for market manipulation.
It really is a Wild West out there.
It is.
I've noticed that a lot of the price predictions especially seem to be based on gut feeling and speculation rather than any solid fundamentals.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to approach this space with a critical eye.
Right.
Don't just blindly follow the hype or the fear-mongering.
Right.
Do your own research. Understand the technology, assess the risks, and form your own conclusions.
Yeah, that's good advice for anyone dipping their toes into the crypto waters, for sure.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in all that excitement.
Oh, yeah.
But it's important to remember that this is still a relatively new and untested asset class.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while there's definitely potential for huge gains, there's also the potential for significant losses. So,
right.
It's all about understanding your risk tolerance and investing accordingly.
And I also think it's important to remember that investing is a marathon, not a sprint.
Oh, for sure.
Don't get too fixated on those day-to-day price movements.
Yeah.
Just focus on the long-term potential of the technology and that underlying value proposition.
I like that a lot. It's so easy to get lost in the noise of the market.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, the value of any technology is its ability to solve real-world problems and create a positive impact.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Ripple and XRP, what's the one key takeaway you really want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the most important thing is just approach this space with a healthy balance of curiosity and skepticism.
Okay.
Be open to the possibilities, but also be critical of the hype. Do your own research, ask questions, challenge assumptions.
Yeah, well said. And remember that this story of XLP and the entire crypto space is far from over.
It's just the beginning.
This is just one chapter in a much larger narrative that's still unfolding. So it's up to each of us to decide how we want to engage with this evolving landscape.
Exactly. And whether you decide to invest in XRP or not, the knowledge and insights that you gain from exploring this space can be incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. So to our listener out there, we encourage you to continue exploring, to stay curious and never stop learning.
Yeah.
The future of finance is being written right now, and you have the opportunity to be a part of it.
And remember, the most important investment you can make is in your own understanding.
That's a perfect note to end on. Until next time, happy diving.